Welcome to the Purposeful Fitness with Coach Ola, where I dive in deeper into holistic health and fitness topics that would help you stay inspired, motivated, and dedicated to living a purposeful fit life while pursuing for the Akhirah. Hey, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to episode number 22 with Coach Ola. Today we have Maarten, who's a vitality coach who focuses on creating mentally, spiritually, socially, and physically stronger and resilient Muslims with his company, Muslim Fit. With his background as a nurse and anesthetist, he sees the importance for a scientific and evidence-based approach, and he wants to bring balance in a health industry filled with the gurus and pseudo-scientific work. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how Muslim Fit came together, and since we are in the last 10 nights of Ramadan, how to finish it off strong, inshallah, and how to pick up that momentum after Ramadan, and much more. So let's welcome Maarten. Hey, assalamu alaikum, Maarten.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Thank you for coming on. So please tell us about Muslim Fit and how it all came together.
Yeah, well, I started Muslim Fit like 3 years ago. And initially, if I talk a little bit about my background, I was a competitive bodybuilder before I converted to Islam. So when I started off, my whole life was focused a lot on physical development, the way you look and the way you perform. When I converted to Islam, of course, the competitive side of bodybuilding, being in your underwear on the stage, wasn't applicable for me anymore. So I came in a situation that I had to rediscover my relationship with sports, the way I enjoy it, the goals that I strive for. So when we first started out, it was really like Muslim fitness. I still really focused on strength training and such. But especially on my professional career, I studied anesthesia as an anesthesia nurse. And when I worked in the hospital during my internships, I saw so many people being on my operation table unnecessarily. Like so many things they had and had to need to get surgery for were preventable and very often quite easily. At least the steps to take to prevent such illnesses are pretty easy. So my relationship with sports started to change, but also my relationship with how I looked at healthcare and my personal individual health as well. So throughout the years, I started to develop more of an interest in a broader look at health. So not only how strong are you, how muscular are you, or are you sick or not, but also, a more broader look at health. Are you mentally well? Besides the part how you look, are you also happy with the way you look? Are you happy with the way you perform? Because you see in this society, especially with social media and especially in the fitness world, you get a lot of unhealthy relationships with the way you look, the way you perform, and the way you prevent yourself. At the time that we're trying to be perceived as somebody who is trying to get healthy. So trying to get healthy brings a lot of unhealthy mental, social, and also physical parts with it. So that's why I started Muslim Fit, because I wanted to give an alternative. On the one side, getting the health sphere into an Islamic framework. So trying to align the goals of somebody on this physical and mental and social journey to align with the goals of life that Islam prescribes, in the hope that if you follow the fitrah, the Sharia, that all those unhealthy side effects of modern day can be fought. And on the other side, I saw that there was a lot of bad advice being given online. A lot of people claiming to not just at first, you have a lot of people who don't back their theories at all. So they just say something if you say why, it's my experience, or I think it's this way and I don't know why. On the other side, you also have a very big group who claim to be science driven, but they often just cherry pick one or two studies that confirm their claims and neglecting the broader literature. So the real goal of Muslim Fit is at first trying to realign Muslims with the goal in life and don't make your physical and mental goals clash with Islam. And on the other side, giving proper information that isn't harmful or unnecessarily strict.
I love that. And I heard your interview on another podcast, and I have a huge respect for when you talked about bodybuilding, and you yourself, like, I just respected how you mentioned in Islam, like with bodybuilding, and especially from a guy to hear that we're like, even guys shouldn't be showing too much of their pictures and all that stuff. So I just want to hear more on your perspective on how did you find, like, how were you able to stay strong, especially as a guy? Because women, like, we have, especially with hijab, like, we have to cover, but with guys, a lot of guys get away with it, like, oh, I'm a guy, it's fine, but you still like maintain it. So do you mind if you can dive into it a little bit more?
Yeah, sure, no problem. I think that's the good thing and the fun thing about being a convert, because you enter Islam, especially me, because before I came to Islam, I barely knew any Muslims. I knew two. So I was not yet, I don't know how the English word. I didn't know the Islamic context, Islamic culture, and
Right.
I wasn't brought up in that way. So a lot of the things that normal Muslims perceive as normal, because they never seen different, you'd have a very different perspective as a convert. So oftentimes I see myself looking at the Sharia, and especially looking at the goals that it tries to perceive to reach. And then you see really funny things, because, for example, what you said, so many times I have so many guys complaining or saying, like, when I want a wife, I want her to have an hijab, wear skirts and all the likes. But on the same hand, the guy always walks around in a tank top, doesn't have a beard, posts six-pack photos of himself, social media. And not in a way that I'm judging, because everybody's on his own level, and that's fine. And there should be room for somebody to go to Allah on his own pace. But as a convert, somebody out of the normal context, out of the culture, it seems so strange. Like, how can you? And I don't want to sound like a white knight, but it's just my my logic didn't work like that. How can you demand for your wife to be fully dressed, and you don't even have a beard or don't dress modestly? Just found it funny, So yeah, it's. I think it's a unique perspective you have as a convert if you're not really known and not brought up as a Muslim, that a lot of things that sound normal and people don't have a second thought about, at the first glance you look through it and see the contradictions in the way some Muslims behave.
Yes, that's why I'm happy that you mentioned that. And by the way, your English is perfectly fine and very great. So tell us where you're actually from and what language you actually speak, if you don't mind.
Yeah. I'm from Rotterdam. It's a city near the Netherlands. Most people know the Netherlands from Amsterdam. It's the capital, and it's known for. We also call it, in Holland we call it Haramsterdam. So yeah, in Holland we speak Dutch. It's not German. It sounds a little bit alike. Alhamdulillah, if you look at Holland, we have two big groups of Muslims. We have the Moroccans and the Turkish. So alhamdulillah, we have a good mix of different cultures, and Islam is really spreading here quite fast. Also on with the native Dutch people. So alhamdulillah.
That's awesome. Inshallah, I can visit. I love, especially like Europe has so many nice countries. So inshallah one day. But yeah, back to the topic about halal haram and like how you found it. It's really interesting, and it's true, because a lot of times we demand and then we don't look at our own selves, and it's important to, like, as you said, everyone is on their own path with their own relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's why it's important to stay focused on ourselves before other people. So since we are in the last few days of Ramadan, what do you recommend for people to focus on during the last days besides our prayers?
Yeah, well, of course, we all know the stories and the ahadith about the last 10 days and their merit. So I think, especially in the last 10 days, we should really focus on our spiritual training, our spiritual health. I'm always really for a balanced lifestyle, but in the Ramadan, especially in the last days, 10 days, that balance goes away. And we should really dive into the spiritual part. On the other side, that doesn't mean we have to neglect our worldly tasks, work, but also our training. So focus on the spiritual, but on the other hand, try to maintain what you've done in the rest of the year, your sports performance. And on the other side, focus on healthy habits to fully benefit of those last 10 days. Because if you mess up, and it's difficult because, the last 10 days are the last days. So some people are already exhausted, or maybe their motivation went down a little bit because of the time. So at last, especially those last 10 days are so important to be really strict on our diet, our sleep, and our exercise to be energized and fully able to enjoy those last 10 days.
Inshallah. And so during Ramadan, how do you usually work out and how do you manage your sleep with it as well?
Yeah, good question. In the last 10 days, I normally turn down my training volume and frequency a lot. Because, depends on the year and how busy I am with my work. But the last 10 days, I don't really care that much about my training. Because if you look at the scientific literature, you really need very little training stimulus to maintain previously attained muscle mass and cardiovascular health and such. So, but it depends on how the rest of your Ramadan went. Because you can easily stay away from the gym for 1 or 2 weeks without really having a big impact on your performance and your physical composition. But it depends if you've been slacking around the first part of Ramadan, then that the time away from the gym has been getting a lot bigger. So it might be necessary to at least train a little bit during the last 10 days. So when I train during the last 10 days, I normally do full body workouts. It depends on what goals you are striving for. I still like my strength training and training for muscle mass, but on the other hand, if you want to do cardiovascular work, or it doesn't matter, but just keep the trainings short, but keep the intensity high. We've seen in the literature, if you just do one set to failure, it was studies done in professional athletes, so let alone in just our simple amateur athletes. If you just do one set to failure, that's enough stimulus to go by and not lose anything. So I think the main focus should be on just maintaining and not losing, but also not progressing, because those last 10 days are so valuable, and 10 days in 365 days of the year are so short. I think it's more than worth it to just only focus on those last 10 days. So if you haven't been training, pick up a little bit. And if you've been sticking to your gym program very well during Ramadan, you can don't work out or very minimally. So maybe 1 or 2 times in those 10 days.
Inshallah. And do you usually stay up all night, or because I struggle with staying up all night and then going with life during the day?
Alhamdulillah, it depends. Like I said, that's like what I want to say is that health and the way you build up your lifestyle to maintain that health is very individual. For example, when I did my internships, I worked 5 days in the hospital, and I had my side job to pay my rent because I got paid very little doing my internships, and I worked in the weekends, so I worked 7 days a week during Ramadan. So yeah, then I just went to the mosque, prayed 2 rak'at of Tarawih, went home and got my sleep. And alhamdulillah, now when I graduated, I have a little bit more balanced work-life life. I still sleep for like 1.5 hours at night after Tarawih, but I think I'm planning to stay up during the last 10 days.
Inshallah. And what's your usual iftar suhoor like, and how do you maintain that energy also with your nutrition part?
Yeah, well, I'll have to keep repeating myself. It's very individual. It really depends on what kind of athlete you are. Do you just work out because you like it and you're not really advanced, or are you a very advanced athlete, or maybe even a competitive athlete in a certain sport? So or maybe you don't work out at all. It's also possible. So it really depends on what your physical development level is, what your goals are. So currently what I do, I'm quite a tall guy. I'm 6'4", and I'm 95 kilos. Don't ask me how many pounds it is, but I need to eat quite a lot of calories to maintain my weight. So my iftar and suhoor might differ from a normal people. So normally what I do in iftar, it's a good advice for everybody who needs to consume a rather much calories to maintain body weight and performance, because you want to eat a lot at night and you don't want to get negatively inflected during prayer and such. You don't want to feel sluggish or not energetic, but also you want to get your calories in. At the iftar, I try to get my carbs in, my protein, and I want to look at 2 parts. I want to have very little fat and very little fiber, because those 2 nutritions both slow down your metabolism, and it increases your satiety. So you don't want to be filled up, feeling full and being actually full for a long time, because you want to have proper meal at suhoor. So a typical iftar could be like white rice or not whole grain pasta or just bread with a lean protein source like eggs without the yolk, chicken, mostly chicken in my case. So when I break my fast, I often take a protein shake, some dates, then I pray my maghrib, just wait a few minutes, and then I get my first meal in. And that's most of the times it's just rice or chicken. And at this meal, because that's what I say, health is very individual. We all know that vegetables are really healthy for you, but in my case, at this time of the night, I prefer to not eat any vegetables because they often contain a lot of fiber, and I don't want to be really full, and I want my food to be past my digestion tract quite rather fast. So just chicken, some flavor, maybe a sauce, or just some herbs and rice. Then during Tarawih, I always take a protein shake with me with some dates, or I throw a little bit of ground rice or ground oats in my shake, and I drink that during Tarawih and when I walk home. And then at Sahur, I do the opposite. I try to get a lot of fiber in and a lot of fat because, like I said, those slow down your metabolism. So, and it increases your satiety. So that means that the nutrients you get in at Sahur are being released at a slower rate during the day. So you will be getting your flow of vitamins, fats and carbs and protein later in the day than if you don't consume those fibers and fats. And on the other side, your satiety is higher, so you will have less hunger during the day. So basically, at the beginning of iftar, a lot of carbs, but low in fat and low on fiber. And at sahur, because I need a lot of carbs, I still eat a lot of carbs, but higher fat and more fiber.
That's awesome. And it's so important to really have healthy fast, like you mentioned, especially the last 10 nights. We're like so tired, but then we're like halfway there. So it's important to keep up with the proteins and the healthy fats, of course, with the carbs. So I know we talked about the importance of taking care of our body and your story about bodybuilding. And we talked about this before you came on, the concept of body of Jannah. And I know you found it interesting as well. So can we go back to it one more time and remind our listeners on why it's important to not just care about the physical outlook of the body, but more of having the body of Jannah, that it's how you use your body to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the world around you.
Yeah, of course. Well, it's really easy. The way you look doesn't matter much. What I see a lot with people that especially when we have very little knowledge of the context from within Islam came up, the time of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and also the context of all the scholars we read about is we tend to put all the hadiths we hear and all the sayings of the scholars we read, we often put them in our own context. We see them throughout our modern lens. So when we read like Allah's beauty and He loves beauty, it's promoted in Islam to look after your health and to look after the way you look. But what does it mean? What's the context? Is it the way you look like it's being perceived now in the Western context? Like you have to be ripped, muscular, and for the ladies very skinny. And it's funny because we all know that often the guys on the magazines use steroids, and the woman, and also the man and the most women are photoshopped in the tabloids. So Islam is not necessarily promoting those kinds of the way we view beauty. It's really context, culture, and history dependent. So, like I said also in other podcast, if you really want to have a functional body, you can better pick up, pick up martial arts, because let's be honest, you can look very big and impressive, but I know out of experience, if somebody knows wrestling skills, you're on the ground with quite easy. So just looking at health as looking good is really short-sighted. And a good example is when I did my competitions, I looked the best on stage, but I felt the worst because my sickness resistance was very low. You're starving yourself basically. So if that's your pinnacle of looking healthy, people really don't know what they're talking about, because a bodybuilder or a fitness model in his prime, when he's doing his photo shoot, is often on his worst in performance, physical performance, but also the way you feel really lethargic. It's like 10 times worse than fasting. So I think it's really important to drop that notion of health is looking like a fitness model. And health is more, like I look at health, is being able to resist all the tribulations you see in life. Like if you're healthy when you're able to fast, you're not healthy when you are able to deadlift 1,000 pounds.
It's so true. And like, I remember my days when I cared like a lot about my looks, but then like mentally I wasn't feeling it anymore. So what's the point of like looking good if you're not mentally strong? And it's all connected. So very, very good. So then after Ramadan, how do you pick up your momentum with your workouts? And before you even get into that question, what is your typical workout like on a daily basis, whether it's during Ramadan or before Ramadan?
Okay, yeah. Well, my training varies a lot at the moment. And that's because my goals have changed a lot from my bodybuilding days. Because when I was bodybuilding, it was really specific for one goal. And you have a goal, training specificity is really important, because if you want to get really big, it's not very productive to take up jogging or long distance cycling. But at the moment, because the physical part of training doesn't really interest me that much, it's still, of course, I still like to look good, but the older I get, maybe wiser, I don't know, the less I care about being very, very muscular. So my training varies a lot, and I just do what I like. So at the moment, I do a lot of bodyweight training, gymnastic rings, not because it's superior, but just because I find it fun. It's challenging for me. It's something I never did, and I'm a beginner again, so that's really fun. And also, a year ago, I picked up cycling, road cycling. So my training varies a lot now. So basically, outside of Ramadan, I train at least 5 times a week. Most of the time, it's like 2 days of cycling and 3 to 4 days doing strength training. And most of the time, it's a combination of ring training, gymnastic ring training, and just using weights. So yeah, how it changes during Ramadan. I do quit my endurance training during Ramadan because I like cycling, but my endurance performance isn't really important to me. The downside of endurance training is that it burns a lot of calories. Like if I do a cycling training, I cycle for like an hour and a half. I easily burn 1,000 calories. So when I want to get my calorie target during Ramadan while doing endurance training, that will be really tough. So because endurance, I like it a lot, but my performance isn't really important to me, I just quit it to save up a lot of calories. So during Ramadan, I solely do strength training because it's shorter and it burns less calories. After Ramadan, yeah, the thing is, it's also because my advice isn't always that handy if I take it on my personal level, because I just enjoy training. And that's the thing that people need to understand, that we often look at people who train a lot and like, oh, mashallah, they're so dedicated. They have so much discipline. And also, I always love to train in the morning, like 7 o'clock. And I recently had a friend of mine who said, oh, mashallah, I'm so inspired because you're so disciplined. I also want to work out in the morning. How do you do it? And I just said, bro, it doesn't have to do anything with discipline, because I love it. I like it. It's the same like my wife doesn't need discipline to go shopping. It comes natural. So that's the thing that we have to look out for, is that we don't put every athlete on a pedestal, because often they're just doing what they like. Sometimes it has very little to do with discipline. They don't have to motivate themselves because they're internally motivated. And it doesn't make them better or worse, because like I gave for example, how much for use are you for society if you are a bodybuilder? You're very little use. You can better be a lawyer or a doctor or such. So yeah, my personal struggle isn't with picking up my workout again, because it's something I love and something that comes natural to me. And that's my advice I always give to my clients, because as a trainer, I'm specialized in weight training. But if I have a client who I'm working with for vitality coaching and he doesn't like weight training, I prefer him to pick up soccer or cycling, or even go to another coach who is specialized in another type of training. Because if you do something that you like, the chances that you keep it up are much bigger than doing something that's in theory the most effective, but maybe not the most enjoyable. And the only thing that works is the thing that you stick with. So try to do the things you like, and inshallah, then you will reap the benefits.
Inshallah. How did you go from bodybuilding, which is obviously lots of lifting and all that, to change your workout routines? Did it feel different for you, or the transition? How was that?
Yeah, it's been really slow because, like I said, bodybuilding was a really, real big part of my life. At the moment, it was the biggest. Bodybuilding was my life before I became Muslim. So it was actually quite hard because there was a point that, yeah, the things I valued in life, things I find important, started to change, but it always goes gradually. So sometimes you're at a point that you're 50-50. Like, I still love bodybuilding, but I don't find it important. So there was actually a time, and I never quit training. I always trained at least 3 times a week. But my motivation and my enjoyment varied a lot. And it was because at some times I was having a very strict bodybuilding regimen, but on the same hand, deep down inside, and maybe I didn't even consciously realize it, I didn't find it that important anymore. And I see that with a lot of people that they follow a certain training regimen because they saw on the internet that this is supposed to be good. But because they lack knowledge, they just follow people who have very different ambitions, very different goals and things they value in life. So I was doing things that I knew from my previous background as a bodybuilder that were good in the bodybuilding sense. But when I lost my motivation for bodybuilding, I found it really, really difficult to keep up with the strict regimen. But because I didn't know better. I didn't know better that this was something that was good, and if I did something else that was less or even bad, I started feeling really bad that I couldn't keep up with the things I did in the past. And I was really confused, like, how did this happen? Where did my motivation go? And it came with a gradual realization that if I don't care as much about being very, very big, it's okay to train in a less efficient way, in a less ideal way. And that was really hard for me to accept because I was you're constantly getting told that you have to train in the optimal way. Every personal trainer or health guru always brands himself like, I have the most optimal way of training, the most optimal way of nutrition. But if your goals aren't very extreme and you don't want to become a professional athlete, you really don't need extreme or even optimal training. I often say to my clients, I have a few physicians as clients, and they're very busy, work long hours, and they just want to be healthy. I'm content when they just walk 2 or 3 times a week with their wife. Just a nice hiking trip. It's fine. You don't have to be a bodybuilder to be healthy, like I said before. So a really big change for me was accepting that I wasn't going to train, in a theoretical optimal way and just train in a way I liked. So I think that this can be a valuable lesson for a lot of people who were previously really obsessed with a certain goal and then move away from it. Everybody has to, at some point, accept that sometimes it's okay to do just something that's maybe not even efficient, but it's enjoyable.
That's so true. I can relate to you, even though I wasn't like a bodybuilder per se, but I used to lift a lot. I got really into the whole no gain, no pain mentality. So I pushed myself to my limits. Then I went obviously downhill and then away from fitness. And then when I came back to it, I came back to it from the resistance training, outdoors mentality. So it's okay to like go up and down, and you can always change what you like. And that's why it's important to remind our listeners that, hey, you don't have to stick to a certain routine through your entire life. It can change as you grow. So after Ramadan, then how do you pick up your momentum with your workouts and lifestyle?
Yeah. Well, like I said before, training, it isn't a problem for me because I'm also often really excited to pick up my frequency and volume again. The only thing I find difficult to it is my sleeping routine because I'm a very sensitive sleeper. Not so much that I fall asleep very easily, but my sleep quality differs a lot. So sometimes when I'm in a good rhythm, I go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time for a long period, and I sleep like 6 hours. I'm totally rested. And when I'm really imbalanced, have night shifts and such, I sleep for like 8 or 9 hours, I still wake up tired. So I do find that after Ramadan, I have to take a while to readjust to normal life. And that's a part of me that I need a lot of discipline with, because before Ramadan, because it's quite funny, if you look at the literature on performance in athletes, but also just in the normal population, you see that in the first week, you see a huge dip in performance, and their mood goes down, they feel much more tired, sluggish, and their physical performance goes down. And most researchers find out that it's because you would say that the longer Ramadan takes, the more you get exhausted. But we see that the first week of Ramadan, your performance goes down, and it normalizes in the second, third, and fourth week. So it comes down that it's just getting used to a different shift in sleeping patterns, in feeding patterns, in moving patterns. That shocks the body a lot. So before Ramadan, I also always prepare my sleeping schedule. So like a month before Ramadan, I start staying up later, waking up earlier, and doing naps after I get home to work. So after Ramadan, I have to slowly get out of this rhythm again, because I'm not planning to, pray Tarawih as long. And especially in the Netherlands, that our summer and winter prayer times vary a lot. Isha is now like at 11 at night, and in the winter it can be like 6 at night, 6 p.m. So inshallah, when the days get shorter, my sleeping cycle gets normal again. And the discipline is that when you're not sleepy at a certain time, like for example, I want to go to sleep directly after Isha, and it's like 10:30. Because I'm not tired, it's really hard to look at your sleep hygiene. So because if I have trouble sleeping, I want to quit looking at computer screens and phone screens a lot. So I try to put down my phone at least 30 minutes before I want to go to sleep. So when I want to get back in a normal rhythm, it's really hard for me to quit the entertainment. So quit watching YouTube videos and such before I want to go to sleep, because if I want to change my sleeping cycle, I really need to unwind and get in a dark space and get my mind at ease. So that's the difficult part after Ramadan, is just getting my sleep back again.
That's so true. And I was going to ask you, how long is your fasting time and non-fasting in your country?
Yeah, so at the moment, I'll get the prayer times. We're fasting, our Fajr is at 3:20 a.m. and Maghrib is at 9:15. And that's not even the longest, because every year, I think the longest was like 3 o'clock in the morning and then 10 at night. So alhamdulillah, our prayer times here in Holland are pretty long in the summer. But the good thing is, because I converted when Ramadan was in the summer, so my first Ramadan was also the hardest one you can get in Holland. So alhamdulillah, it only gets easier for me every year now. So alhamdulillah, I started with a good one. So alhamdulillah, it only gets easier for me.
Alhamdulillah, yeah, of course. I think a lot of Muslims, it gets easier for all of us, but it's always important to stay strong after Ramadan, so the next time that it comes around, we are ready again, inshallah. And is there anything that I should have asked that I didn't ask, or that you want to mention?
No, I think we covered a lot of the crucial things to stay healthy and energized during the last 10 days, inshallah.
Inshallah. So where can we stay in contact with you?
Yeah, well, on my social media, you can look me up. Just look for Muslim Fit on Instagram or Facebook. There's also a guy who uses the same name, but he's French, and I use all my communication in English. So if you see a French guy, it's not me, it's a different guy. And inshallah, my website will go online. The time this podcast comes out, my site will definitely be online, and that will be www.muslimfit.com. And you can read all my articles and my further guest appearances on podcasts, inshallah.
Inshallah. So I'll have it in the show notes. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much, and have a blessed Ramadan and Eid Mubarak.
Jazakallah, and Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Thank you for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe today and leave a 5-star review. You can also screenshot and share this episode with a family or a friend. Be strong, be fit for Akhirah.